computer. Perfect. Welcome to Real Talk, divorce, life, and everything in between. The podcast. Well, is it a podcast? Well, whatever. Where we we are honest and we're messy, we're meaningful, and sometimes downright maddening with parts of life after divorce. I'm Laureen Roberts, a holistic counsellor and root cause therapist, and someone who's walked through the wreckage of a toxic relationship and lived to tell the tale. And I'm talking to Richard Morden, a divorce coach and emotional resilience practitioner. After losing his wife a decade ago, he's rebuilt his life from scratch. So he's made it a mission to help others navigate the hardest transition life can throw you. And together we'll bring different perspectives about the same mission, to talk about the stuff no one warns you about, especially when it comes to relationships, self-worth, and starting over, especially once you're over 50. Today we're going to dive into the fallout of what happens after a narcissist is gone. So, but they still manage to linger in our own minds and thoughts. The emotional crash, the loss of dignity, the financial chaos, and the terrifying question, who am I now? So let's unpack it, name it, and most importantly, let's talk about how to deal with the storm, the fallout after a narcissistic relationship and what happens when it ends, and how to rebuild what's been broken. So last time we unpacked how narcissist abuse works and the cycle and manipulation and the confusion, but what happens after it's over? That's what we're going to dive in today, because the end of the relationship isn't the end of the damage. In fact, sometimes it's only the beginning. The fallout from narcissistic abuse can hit every part of your life, your self-worth, your future relationships, your finances, your nervous system, and even your physical health. Excuse me, while I'm dying here. And it's just about moving on. It's about putting the first pieces of yourself back together. So in this episode, we're going to talk about the consequences, the real ones, that people rarely speak about. And most importantly, we'll offer ways to begin to heal again in each area. So the emotional fallout. So, Richard, what's your experience of emotional fallout?
Well, again, just moving out of the relationship for many is just the beginning of the untanglement, right? Because you think you've escaped, and yet there's so many threads attached because they are relentless in their pursuit of your destruction, to destabilize, to cast doubt upon all your friends, to isolate you. And you think that they're ever going to stop? No, because there is no sense of compassion on their side. There is no sense of any type of value to think they've done enough. They will always, as long as you're drawing a breath, most of them will continue on their journey to unseat you, to destabilize, to disrupt your friends, and especially turn your own children against you. And, so be prepared for that, because what's going to happen is you're going to be completely isolated, and I think
Emotionally numb, you're going to be empty, and you're constantly going to be on edge. You're also going to miss them. There's a part of you that really misses them, which is really hard to understand, but it really is the truth. And despite everything they've done, you're going to be absolutely going, oh, if only they'd come back, because I miss them. You could suffer with PTSD, anxiety, depression, guilt, and blame yourself for a lot of the stuff that happened.
Well, the missing part is because the unconscious will always go to what's familiar.
Yeah.
And even the missing part is missing an abusive relationship because it's familiar. Pain is familiar. Addiction is familiar.
Yes.
Going through abuse is familiar and your system craves familiarity.
Yeah.
So understand that you're not crazy. You're not crazy for that. It's part of your nervous system, part of your unconscious drawn in. So recognizing that it's, you're going back into danger again. But again, it's just the unconscious. When we can interrupt those with the work we do, so you're not being, not confused, realizing what is causing it. And then how to interrupt that pattern so you can really start to step away from that pull of that, that mix of feelings that you have inside.
Mm, mm. Yes, definitely. Yeah. So you also need to validate yourself that you've actually been through trauma. So you need to recognize that this is trauma
Mm.
and you've been through trauma. And that's where we were talking before, grounding techniques, how fantastic they are to regulate our nervous system and get us back on track when something happens and when we actually get to a stage where we're falling apart.
You made a comment, I think for many people, and I've talked to quite a few too, that people did not even realize they're in a narcissistic relationship.
Yep.
They did not realize they're being abused. Became so normal because this starts often early on and it grows into your relationship and maybe from a young age, and maybe you've been through several partners and each one's been a narcissist. And it takes an outside voice to say something, and maybe that's a trusted voice. And you have to, like you said, it was your daughter at one point, but for some people, have been friends telling them, and they go, no, no, they can't because they just don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's a common thread. They don't realize they're being abused.
Yep. And validating that you've been through trauma is well, you can't validate it until you identify it. And then you've got to,
Mm.
okay, you identify it, then you've got to accept it before you can actually validate that, yep, really accept that this was traumatic and I've been through something that I should never have gone through. So yes, it can be one of the hardest things to actually do. And you're right, yeah. If my daughter hadn't have told me, I was never going to recognize it. Because I'd also been told that I don't hit you, so you should be really lucky.
Mm.
So I was
Yeah.
thinking that I needed to be really grateful that I wasn't being belted. And I used to say to him, but if you belted me, I wouldn't be here. So that's not even a discussion. Oh, yes, but you are so lucky the way that I treat you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're told that you're lucky. Oh, okay. Mm,
Well, and it's how they mix voice tones, tensions in there. And sometimes they start off with something being really nice, then they'll pull you into something kind of a negative spiral,
mm,
and then they'll finish it with being really nice. Or like some people say, they'll start off a discussion of being praisal, and then they go into all the areas they're disappointed in you. So you think again, there must be something wrong because here's so much good, but I need to work on these areas because I'm believing everything this person says.
mm.
And again, they constantly cast doubt into you, right, or at you, so you start to doubt everything about yourself. And then again, they're so strong at creating their beliefs, their affirmations into you that thinking, oh, I need to do more of this. I need to do what he's saying because I'm not, I'm not doing these things right. I need to be better. I need to listen more. I need to, be more attentive or whatever they're saying in the manipulation, right? So it's just, again, the unseating is there, the doubt is there, and they cast in or insert, their opinion of you. But
Well,
we take it as a belief.
once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. Once it is visible to you, you can't unsee it.
Yeah,
And sometimes might take you a while to realize what's happened again, but then you see it again. So that's where you need to understand what's actually happening to you. That's where you have to realize that you're not weak. You're actually traumatized.
yeah,
And that's where the healing starts, when you stop blaming yourself and actually understanding what's actually happened. And that's also where the grounding techniques are really good. So, what I do with clients is I get them to actually just breathe into their heart, put their hands on their heart and breathe into their heart, slow breaths into their heart, and let them get back into their body, because a lot of them have absolutely left their body. And it took me a long time to be able to get back into my body and actually feel safe within myself, because I didn't feel safe in me because I'd never been able to protect myself. So, grounding techniques, what grounding techniques do you use with clients?
Similar in a sense, I give people a finger tapping because it's nice and simple. We have the
Yes.
other EFT, but if they just learn to do finger tapping like that, again, simple technique, they can remember that. They may just, and we naturally kind of do this with our hand. We naturally kind of grab them, but if you just do that for one, another one is actually a head and head, sometimes laying back on the couch like that and just putting your head back and breathing. And just, you don't have to say too much at this point, just breathe, and this helps regulate as well. Another one is hand on heart, hand on belly. And again, deep breath,
Yep.
so that
Yep.
that starts to sort of regulate our system, so it's just breathe and without going into any language or anything else, right? Just allowing yourself to just take in your breath and sort of not have to let any thoughts go.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And another thing that often, when you're out of this relationship, you actually realize that you've lost your own identity and you don't know who you are. And you're used to walking on eggshells and shrinking yourself because you're too scared to be seen because you could get picked on. So you feel like the shell of the person that you used to be. So, yeah, reconnecting to yourself is really, really difficult. So, how do you walk through clients reconnecting with themselves?
Well, again, we have a visualization process too, like even a picture where you're sitting with your back against a tree, there's a stream, your feet are crossed, and you're just kind of relaxed. And some people have like maybe holding a stone in their lap a bit, just feeling nature. So especially against a tree, right? Trees are just have tremendous grounding and just that sense of connecting. And if you can visualize yourself near a stream and you feel the breeze, and I think we've all got memories of that, and sometimes the smells, tremendous nature smells, and some small animals. So all of those sort of attract your senses, and they're all, and what they all are is they're all safe.
Mm.
Trees are safe. The stream is safe.
Being in the present, being in the moment, and actually breathing in and being in the moment,
Yeah,
connecting to nature.
yeah.
And yeah, and I also find that meditation, I always tell everyone, meditation, and if they can't meditate, then go on to breath work. Breath work is another
Mhm.
amazing one.
Yeah.
Just to bring yourself back into your body, bring yourself back into the now, and actually just feel yourself. My big thing is actually journaling. I journal a lot. I do, I have the intention, I'll put it that way, of journaling each day.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm not writing about, what I need to do and what I've done. I'm journaling about from the soul and asking my soul questions. So I'm doing deep work journaling questions like, who was I before?
Mm.
Who do I want to be now? What do I need to do to be the person I want to be? It's really deep questions that I ask myself, and sometimes you can keep asking yourself that same question every day for a week, and it doesn't matter. It's amazing what comes out as well.
I would agree with journaling because, like you said, it gives you some identification. It gives you a bit of a map when you really have a time to take the time to write things on paper and put your thoughts down again for that. And this is for your eyes only.
Yeah,
That
absolutely.
your recognition, your sort of your curiosity or your doubt or whatever's going on. Sometimes, again, when writing is a very, very, very magical process. When we write,
Mm,
it's like we open ourselves up to more.
mm.
And so many people will write things down and look at it later and say, I had no idea I wrote that down.
And use a pen and paper.
Yes. Yeah.
Don't write on the keyboard. That doesn't work. It actually
Correct.
needs to be handwritten. And I don't
Yeah.
know, there is a brain connection, hand connection there, and why that's more important than just typing, but it actually works. It really does.
Yeah.
I love journaling. And I have special books that I just journal in. So I'll go out and I'll buy myself a really nice book. So
Hmm.
it's not an exercise book. Um, so my journaling is because it's a special thing for me because it is about me and it is about
Right.
getting me through what I need to do, you know.
Mhm.
So yeah, who am I as a person? It will give you some really good things. Yeah, really, really good.
There's a term comes in there, reflective.
Yes.
It, it, it's a beautiful term because, again, sometimes when we really sit down and our intent is to write, we become reflective in our thoughts and maybe not so angst or twisted sometimes. We get to actually analyze our thoughts a little bit, analyze our emotions. And a lot of this too is connecting to your emotions because we've been taught to ignore them. We've been taught to push them down. But when you become reflective, and sometimes even not alone, but helps relieve some of the tension in the thoughts when you start to observe them
Mm,
and actually maybe feel the visceral pain of them because that recognition in your truth. I always talk about the EFT. We must be in our truth in a sense, even in our own discomfort. Not an affirmation,
yeah.
true in our sense of how we truly feel, like you're feeling dark,
Yes.
heavy, sad, angry, frustrated, bitter, disappointed. All those become terms, but in their expression allows a little bit of the tension to start to dissolve because when we recognize again, the system starts to let go.
Yeah. Yep. Once you've seen something, you can't unsee it.
Right.
Once you've seen it, you can then deal with it.
Yeah.
And if you don't deal with it, then you just bury it and it just gets stored away in your body somewhere and will come out as disease some time later.
Yes. Yes. I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So also when you've been through this sort of a relationship, you need to divorce yourself from anybody who's slightly narcissistic and surround yourself with people who aren't draining your energy, who are supportive of you as well. And that can be really hard because it can do a lot of damage to relationships as such. You know, you might have lost friends, your family, and your support networks because they've gone off with the other person because they've convinced them that there's something wrong with you. So I know, you know, when I from my divorce, my biggest loss was actually my best friend. I lost my best friend. And that was the biggest heartbreak for me. So of all the things that I lost, she was the one that really affected me the most. Mm.
And you're correct. There's going to be some, I mean, ongoing heartache
Yeah,
and ongoing disappointment and things that who you thought you were, who you thought your friends were, and the bonds are going to be such a disruptive pattern. So again, the grounding, the nervous regulations is really important where you're not so caught up in this disillusionment of everything you thought was real is not real in
yeah,
the sense of the connection, the support, and it's all gone.
yeah, yeah,
So you're having to rely on yourself in many ways to regulate yourself and connect to yourself, and then through that, through maybe work or some other type of association, you start to feel your way into other groups of like-mindedness. And there may be support groups around there for you or online, and you at least have some dialogue. But again, do you want to join maybe if you're in a book club or something very simple that allows you to go out and have a little bit of dialogue, and I would say intellectual dialogue,
yeah,
not
yeah.
not shame, blame, and complain dialogue.
Yes, yes. But you also might be at a stage where you don't trust anybody anymore because the
Right,
trust has been taken out.
right.
Because all the people you did trust have now, don't believe you with what's happened, don't don't aren't there to support you, so you don't trust anyone, and you've also got, doubts about yourself. Maybe the other person was right that you really are this bad person, but
Mhm.
no, no, I don't think I am. No, so you've got all of this going on at the same time.
Yeah,
So yes, you need to find your own little tribe somewhere that is appropriate for you, which can be really, really hard, especially if you've been isolated and don't have the skills, the social skills you once had because you've never been allowed to, you know, um, communicate with others and build relationships. I could communicate, but I couldn't build relationships because I wasn't allowed to. So building a relationship was really foreign. I knew that I couldn't ask anyone over to the house because I would absolutely, cop it later. So learning to build those relationships and actually, would you like to go out for coffee to someone you've just met? Would you like to meet up again? Is a really foreign thing. So you've got to relearn a lot of the skills you learnt as kids, which can be really hard.
And a word of advice, these new friends are not your dumping ground.
Yeah.
They're not your dumping ground for all your pain and sorrow. Sorry, but I mean that's for other people that have a better ear. If you're making a new friend, find topics of interest that you can dialogue about, light things that at least you can build a little connection. But again, these are not dumping ground people. Don't pour your garbage onto them to vent. They're not there to hear you vent. They're not there. They're not your therapist. They're just there to listen, and for you to have a chance to build new conversational skills.
And that's something that you do need a therapist. You do need a dumping ground somewhere.
Mhm.
So you need to find that person that will be the person who will also correct you and pick you up when you say, I'm a shit person and I'm, really pathetic. Will say, hold on, hold on, hold on. Where are you coming from that? And pull
Yeah.
you up as well. And that's what therapy does. And that's why it's really important actually that you do have someone that will actually go over things with you. Why would you think that? Well, because of this and this and this. Well, is that really the truth? Well, no. Where your friends will sit there and go, oh God, I don't want to speak to her again
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
don't want to deal with it.
Yeah. So you have to find your lanes for your venting, some sort of counseling practitioner, whatever that can help you, and then change that dialogue and like work with those limiting beliefs. But again, having other topics of interest, even if you have to have a notepad with you,
Yeah.
on the topics you want to talk about. Some like because sometimes you go into a situation and your mind goes blank. Something on your phone, little reminders on your phone. Maybe again some topics to think about. So use tools.
Mm,
Just, oh yeah, my mind goes blank. Let me think about what I was going to mention about here. So again, pull up your phone, pull up your notepad, and be honest.
mm,
I was just thinking of where I want to talk about. I'm kind of new at this in some ways, like so. It's a new skill set for me.
mm,
If they're going to shame you, if they're going to be listening to you, then maybe they'll be appreciate your vulnerability.
mm, mm.
Because they could be in the same boat. So it's learning to do whatever tools help you stay on track and for conversation and just again, be practical about it.
Yeah. 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 And the book club's a great idea. And I know I started doing programs and courses because learning is my passion, and
Mm,
spiritual learning is even more of a passion, and self development and all of that. So I started
yeah.
joining all of these groups, and that's where I found a lot of my tribe, who I'm still with today, through joining that. So yours might be, the local football club, or it might be the tennis club, or it might
Mhm.
be, something else, but you need to find, or the book club, which is a great thing, or it might be, get on the parents association if you've got small kids. Just doing something, U3A if you're more mature again, I don't know if you have the U3A over in.
No, but I mean, I think when you look there's, I mean, I think meetup.com has thousands of meetups, like
Yeah,
all over
yeah,
the world, right? Find
yeah.
ones local, again, that are safe, that are like easy for you to get to. Like sometimes there's little foodie clubs, there's
Yes.
knitting clubs, there's all kinds like so there's all kinds of meetups that you can look at. There may be reviews, and
Yeah.
Facebook has reviews on clubs like that you can resource and just again testing the waters, what feels comfortable, what do the people feel like, learning to gauge that, but again looking for safeties first, acceptability is the other. So it's just little ways to step out of your isolation, not, move away from the TV set to create some more interest and create some dialogue. It takes time, but it starts with little steps.
Yep, yep. And once you come out of a narcissistic relationship, the other problem you might have is financial consequences of that relationship as well.
Mhm.
Because the narcissist will want absolutely everything and will want to send you broke, basically.
Yeah.
So you may have lost control of your finances. So, yeah, and everything might be going on divorce and all sorts of bits and pieces, just trying to maintain yourself. So, they will have manipulated your money, even though that you're separated, by creating expenses for you. They may have sabotaged your work, or they might have left you in debt, or even run up debts in your name. That's something that I've heard before too. Get their electricity bill put into your name, so you're now responsible for their usage. Like, oh, it's amazing what lengths that they can go to. So my suggestion there is to get help from a financial counsellor, and there's other services in Australia, and try and rebuild your own finances, budgeting, planning your income, and asking for help.
Mhm.
And that there's no shame about problems
Right.
with money, especially when it comes to a narcissist, because that's part of the abuse, and it's something that you need to sort of accept and go, okay, rightio, this is financial abuse.
Well, I guess the key word here is, Lorraine, there's going to be betrayal at all levels.
Yes,
Just expect it. Betrayal at all levels. There's no safety. So understand that it's going to be all over. So just
mm,
again, prepare for the unexpected in this betrayal. Like there's no safe zones.
mm,
So yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it is. Yeah. So, and the other thing is, once you're out of a narcissistic relationship, you can sometimes have triggers and flashbacks. So if something happens, it can absolutely trigger you off.
mhm.
And yeah, I remember being triggered. I was at an event and being really triggered by martial arts. It was a conversation, and I just couldn't get myself out of it. It took me ages to be able, and I went for a walk and all sorts of bits and pieces because I was so triggered. It was just, yeah, it was amazing. And I look back now and go, wow, haven't I grown so much?
Yeah. And maybe that's something in a journal. Put down your triggers. What upsets you?
Yeah,
I don't think we recognize our triggers, but when you journal them
yeah,
out, then you start to see, the situations, what situations triggered, and look behind the scenes and start to help you recognize what the stimulus was for that trigger.
mm,
What the switch was, the voice tone, the inflection, the words, the angle, somebody's name, a situation, a past event. Again, I think really look at the triggers you have, and that's because it's so unconscious. But when we become aware of them, we go, ah, okay, and I see how they're being used to affect me.
yeah. And also, if you get into a conflict with somebody or something, you'll suddenly find yourself go back to old behaviors or, people pleasing, and you can't deal with the conflict because you're so used to calling up in a ball and hiding rather than dealing.
Yeah,
Yep,
yeah,
whatever you say. Oh, yes, yes, yes. Okay, okay, okay. And it stops you having actually healthy boundaries.
yeah, yeah,
And that's something that you need to recognize within yourself. Oh, this is how I'm dealing with conflict now. No, I need to be able to say, no, I don't agree and I don't want to do that. And that's healthy.
yeah,
But you might never have been able to ever do that before. So, because you've been people pleasing.
yeah.
And healthy boundaries are just fantastic, You need to be able to say that. That is self care. That is self love. That is self worth, having boundaries. Yeah. And
And that all takes time.
yeah.
Yeah.
And not being judgmental to yourself. That's
Mhm.
that's a huge thing. You come out of this relationship and you're ready to pull yourself down because that's all you've ever known. So not judging yourself is really important to learn.
Right.
So practicing self-soothing techniques, so breath work, tapping, grounding is fantastic as well. And also give yourself permission to pause. So actually stop and say, okay, enough's enough, and exit something. Give yourself permission to say no and take yourself away.
I
Yeah.
think we've covered this topic.
Did you realize how deep the damage went with narcissistic abuse? Did
I
you?
think the more I read on it, like I said, the more I see, and I've been doing some reading, it's so tremendously impactful in people's lives and so disruptive that I mean, I suspect that a lot of people never recover from it, unless they get the help, unless they seek the proper channels to, and really, I choose the word carefully, take ownership for it, that this has happened to me. How do I how do I move forward so I can take care of me?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, that's very true. Yeah. Yeah. So do you think other people actually understand, if you've never been in a narcissistic relationship, do you think that people truly understand the depth of what it's like to leave a narcissist?
Not so much outside unless they've done research or you've had experiences with somebody who has been in the relationships like that. Because for a casual observer, I think it's very hard to understand the depth. It's like somebody said, if somebody's had, and I've seen it, had a wonderful marriage for 50 years, and I've seen those 50 some years, they don't know what a bad marriage is. Some people are very fortunate partners and they have a tremendously intriguing and interesting relationship, and they just, and their inner circle has been so positive. When somebody else is talking about other bad, they just like, I didn't know those things happened.
Mm.
So but it's becoming more apparent, I think, the way people are seeing the media, how so many people are in the media, so many people in politics are this sort of type of personality, right? And they're starting to see that the behavior display and the attention seeking around it. So I think it's becoming more obvious. And again, it's so easy to search. You can do a search in 20 seconds and have some information pop up that's quite alarming.
Yeah. Yeah. But I do think it's really hard. People don't see the depth of how far this person can go,
Mhm.
especially once you get into the legal ramifications of everything. Often it's not actually about even winning the case, it's actually about destroying you.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I don't think people don't see that it's actually not about winning, it is about destroying you. And they don't understand why someone would want to destroy another person.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not logical to the rest of us why this person would behave that way.
We've always been told to believe the good in people, always look for the good, but unfortunately, there's some very twisted and deeply dark people out there that have no boundaries in which they will do to destroy your life.
What's the biggest thing that surprised you about actually healing after narcissistic abuse?
Again, it's ongoing. Like I said, it's like any journey of self-care, improvement. It's an ongoing path that, I always say, as far as my own self-development, it'll never stop. So I think in relationship, there's always nuances show up, and you always be aware of the journey. And sometimes, like anything, just I think it makes you grateful when you do move into the higher frequencies and recognize the difference of who you are. I think that's a big thing because we don't ever want to take ourselves for granted.
Mm,
So we are in a sense of gratitude, awareness, but also that awareness of, I don't want to slip back there. I want to stay in this path of my journey, my strength, my resilience, my love of who I am. So that becomes deeper in a sense of your personal worth.
I think what surprised me the most was the immediately I went into a high and I went, I'm free. I don't have to go back here. Then I went into a low, into deep depression. And what surprised me the most was my addiction to him,
Hmm.
and that it was really hard to beat and get through that addiction. And I do remember making a phone call just for the hell of, because I just needed to hear his voice, and I knew that I should not be doing it, but I had to do it, and it was a total addiction. And then when I
Hmm.
did, I went, "Why did I do that? Oh my God, what an asshole!" But it was that addiction that shocked me more than anything, and the fact that I couldn't get him out of my mind and my brain for such a long time. I mean, he doesn't even compute nowadays, but and nor is
Right.
she, and nor he has for a long time. But it took a long time for me to work through that, and I didn't know how to work through it, and I didn't understand why it was happening too. I think maybe if I had the knowledge that I have now, then maybe I would understand. But at the time, I didn't understand.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
So that was probably the biggest surprise. So it was the high, then the crash, and then the realization of the addiction that I had. It was, yeah, that was absolutely mind blowing in a way for me. Yeah.
Hmm.
So let's close today with an affirmation. So, and the affirmation is, I am allowed to heal. I'm allowed to grieve. I'm allowed to take my time. I am not broken. I am rebuilding.
Beautiful.
Yep, I am allowed to heal. And we're all healing forever, I think. I'm allowed to
Yes.
grieve. There is so much to grieve. I'm allowed to grieve. And I'm allowed to take my time, as much time as I want. I am not broken. Definitely not. I am rebuilding. Thank you for our conversation today, Richard.
Thank you.
And we'll talk again next week
Soon.
or sometime soon. Soon.
Soon.
And thank you, everyone, for listening to us.